Hey everybody, here we are again back in my workshop. My name's Colwin Way, and it's that time again. We're going to look at another, this time a turning Thursday, aren't we? So if you remember on what we're making on Tuesday, what were we making on Tuesday, Ben? I can't remember what we were making. That leads me on to introduce Ben the Pen Beddoes, is behind the camera at the moment. You'll be seeing videos from him coming up very soon in the next few weeks, months, and then forever. We're all going to have a day of our own. So Ben's going to be asking the questions today. As usual, Finn, Charlie and Vicky, they've all gone off to work in their various workplaces. So today we are going to make Party Popper Cannon. And there's a little story behind this one. Can everybody see these two on the bench there?
No, let's come just down a bit.
Have a look, save me lifting them up to the camera. There's a couple of options here, Party Popper Cannon, and whilst I'm talking, I'll remember what I've done on Tuesday in a second. Let me know if you're there, by the way. We had a problem on Tuesday where I couldn't see any questions from anybody.
Yeah.
So as long as we can see questions.
Yeah, I'm seeing people saying hi and things like that.
Hello everybody. Good. Hello, welcome. So let's have a look at the cannons themselves. Now there's two stories here really. The first one goes back around about 6 years now when Charlie was around about 10 and this was his creation. And the story is really that it was in the UK we have bank holidays. Bank holidays are usually Mondays, sometimes Fridays, and they're a public holiday. Anything but the leisure industry has that day off most of the time, and so the schools are the same. So he was getting a little bit bored. It was a rainy bank holiday, and he wanted to do something. So I said, "I'll tell you what. Let's go to well-known hobby shop in the UK, Hobbycraft, and just to see if there's anything that he could do on that day." Anyway, we got there and we were completely uninspired, or he was uninspired as to what to do. And then on the way home, we were talking about just different things in the workshop. And I remember the demonstration that I saw by a guy called Eugene Grimley, a very well-known and good friend of mine, Irish woodturner. I went to one of his demonstrations and he used to do pretty much a different demonstration every single time. And one of them was a Party Popper Cannon, so I thought, ideal. So Charlie absolutely jumped at that. He was only 10 at the time. So this was his creation. So a little bit of turning. We've got the main gun barrel there. And at that time, this was his design as well. So big wheels and a gun carriage on the back. About 18 months ago, I think, I've done another one for the Woodturning magazine. And that was this one. So this is more like a galleon cannon. So that's the one that I'd like to make with you today, or over 2 days. We're going to do the turning today, and then we're going to use that sanding table that we've been raving on about for weeks and months to do most of the rest. And it's made up of strips of timber. I've got the timber here. Okay, so that's all ready. I'm going to put this through the planer over the weekend, through the surfacer, so they're all ready for us. And then we'll cut them, sand them, get them all together and finish our cannon off on Tuesday next week. Okay, so a two-parter, we'll do the turning today. So I couldn't find a bit of oak. I'll be honest, I couldn't find a bit of oak that was the right size. So we're going to use elm for the barrel. So I've cut that to size. I'll give you dimensions as we're going. But I have got some wheel blanks here. Okay, obviously at the moment they're not going to turn. We need to think about doing something to them to change the shape. So we do have a hole. I've pre-drilled a hole through the middle, 6 mil, and all of this is going to be joined together with dowel, some beech dowel. Lily's got the part number for the plain beech dowel. We sell that in packs of 10. I use it all the time. I've got loads and loads of stuff that I've used beech dowel on: Christmas carousels, German smokers, nutcrackers, all those sorts of things. Really, really good to join together. How are we doing, Ben? Are we getting questions through on mine, or are we going to be getting through on yours?
No, I'm getting, there seems to be a little bit of a problem with the focus today. It looks clear on here and on my phone, but we're getting a few comments on the focus. It looks pretty good. Someone mentioned autofocus.
We never know. You never know. There we are. That's as much as I can. My technical ability. That's as much as I can do, I'm afraid. So we'll persevere. If it's a real problem, we'll put up the recorded video as well, so that'll be nice and crisp. All right, so let's carry on. Let's carry on. Hopefully I'll describe most of the action so you won't have to see too much. We'll see. So that's the one that we done about 6 years ago. We're going to do the galleon cannon. Okay, and there seems to be at the moment, oh, can you pass me that party popper there, Ben?
Yep.
There seems to be at the moment a global what's the words? Sellout of party poppers. I've been all over the place this morning trying to find a bag of party poppers to do this for you, and I can't find any anywhere. So this is an old spent one that was left in the back of this cannon from, I think probably from Christmas, to be honest. So that's what we need to give me the dimensions. Don't worry, I have ordered a bag ready for Tuesday, so we'll be okay for Tuesday. But for the minute, we're going to need that to show you what to do. So we have got a plunger to make as well, so we need to ram that that party popper in once we've made this and to load it. But for the minute, I'll show you what happens. That's the shape of what I know as a party popper. That needs to be rammed down in there. I'm going to lose my finger in a minute, and we'll then make a little plunger to stick down. And I don't know whether you can see, but then the back of the party popper comes out the back of the cannon. So at that point you can then draw through the drawstring, point it away and pull the cannon, or pull the drawstring. They're quite fun. They're great obviously for your children, for grandkids, for nieces and nephews, that sort of thing, or whatever, if you like the like your war games, whatever. So let's start the build anyway. We've got we've got 5 things to make really. If we can get to it, I'll do the plunger cap as well, but if we can't, then we'll stick with these. So the barrel's going to be my first bit, then we're going to do all of the wheels. To make the wheels, we're going to make a little drive dog as well. So there's a little bit to go through, but nice turning, friendly turning is what I say.
So I've got a quick question here, Colwin.
Yeah.
From Ian, what's your opinion of the AC 355 wood turning lathe?
That's a nice machine. We were using that. When was I using it? Only a couple of weeks ago, actually. We turned that nice teak toffee bowl. In the craft range, that is probably, and the benchtop range as well, the biggest, most powerful lathe that we do. A good swing over the bed, 355. And you can add on to that bed as well, so you can get extra length. It's a nice machine. For a starter lathe, that's a really, really nice machine to go with, because it gives you good capacity. The other thing with it is that it has the same thread as I'm using here, so 33 by 3.5. So a grown-up thread. What I mean by that is if you trade up to a trade machine, you'll expect to have the same threads and Morse taper and stem size for your tool rest, so there's nothing different. Now, tool rest size is a real bugbear of mine, or tool rest stem diameter. I won't want to go anything under an inch, under 25mm, under 25.4, but certainly nothing less than that. No, I just don't like it. Certainly once you start going over the 6-inch tool rest to sort of 9 to 12 inch, I just don't think they're very strong. So for me, you know, the fact that the 355 has that's a winner straight away. Okay, so yeah, that's my opinion. I think it's a really, really good machine. Okay, so bit of L. We've got our Pro Drive on the headstock, and we've got a ring centre on the tailstock. So I think that's the opportunity, Ben. If you want to pop on over, get nice and close. Am I going to take time to centre? We might as well centre this up properly.
Oh, and it was clocks you were turning.
That's it. It's a long time since Tuesday. Craig and I were working out how many of these videos we've done since the start now, and it's over 70. Just to let you know. So there's been a few. Okay, so it's not a square bit of timber. This side is slightly longer than this one, so that's why the marking gauge really worked. You can see my 2 wide lines on the long side, and the line actually met up on the narrow side, so that gives me a good position for centre. Okay, different on this side. Okay, so perfect. So let's wind the tailstock up, get that held in between centres. Don't let me forget, Ben. At the end, I just want to talk about next week and that big lump that I just had. So what do? We always check to make sure none of the corners touch. Lay speed to 0. It's a new bit of timber going on. I'm going to put my safety specs on. Okay, and when needed, when we start sanding in a minute, I'm going to put the dust extractor on, but I'll warn you for that, and we'll talk about sanding before I start. Remember, normally I'd have my dust protection on, but I need to talk to you. So it's that rare occasion where I won't be wearing it.
I've got a quick question here from Dave, and it's about alignment. How do we align the tail and the headstock?
Sorry, quick slurp of tea. Right. If you have one of these machines, then they come with a little alignment tool. The alignment tool basically is two Morse taper either side of a little piece of steel that you stick together and you bring this head and tail stock up. That's fine. I think it's a bit of a faff if you're going to ask me my honest opinion. So what I would do is bring your centres up and do what they call the kiss test. And basically what you're trying to do is bring those two centres close and look at the points. Are the points matching up? Are they getting close to each other? If they're close to each other, perfect. If they're not, then you have to tweak the headstock. And there's not a lot of tweaking. It takes about 5 seconds, if that. Okay, and then they're done. And it's not necessarily, if you can't get those lined up, it won't be the head and the tail stock. I very much doubt. I have never known in all the years I've been doing it, them to be out. So don't start filing things. It'll be your floor. It'll be the floor's unlevel. Now all heavy machines come with feet, and they're risers, and they're to take twist out of the bed. Because the minute you put twist in, all these lathes are heavy and they'll settle down onto the floor. The minute you put twist in the bed, the head and the tailstock are going to move out. Okay, so you adjust the feet and you should be back in play again.
And is that tool rest a new style one? The
tool rest is the robust comfort rest. So this is the 150. On my machine here, it's a 25.4, so the inch. Okay, this is my. I go straight to this one now. You've seen me working this lathe for a few months now. And this is probably in the past sort of 3 to 4 weeks, I've gone to these. They've just come into us. We're just starting to stock the robust tool rests. Absolute business. They really are. Hardened steel top. There is a video coming out in the next 3 weeks of just a little bit of an explanation as to why I think they're so good. So look out for that. But they're in stock now. Have a look on the website. I think they come in 2 sizes, 25.4 and 30mm shaft. So yeah, for all the trade machines. I have been looking at a few comments, people wanting them for the craft machines. Well, you'll have to talk about that one. You're going to have to leave that one with me, I'm afraid, and see what happens with that one. Okay, so I'm going to turn this up fairly quick, up to about 1800 revs. I'm just going to skim down to a cylinder. Let's have a quick look and see what we have there as diameter. I'm going to hold this in my O'Donnell jaws, so the ones that we were using on Tuesday when we were doing the clock. Same, it's a 38mm O'Donnell jaws.
We're having a few questions about dimensions and sizes. Is that something that we can do at a later date? Can we?
Yeah, what
sizes?
What are we talking? Jaw sizes?
Or? No, I think of the piece. Dimensions, please, was the question.
Right then. So I started off with a bit far bigger than I need. The actual dimensions of our cannon. We'll do the cannon. The barrel here. So the barrel length, if we're talking, that's 130mm. So that's just a little bit above 5 inches. And in terms of diameter, this is roughly, of course, we're on 43mm at its widest point. Okay, so 43mm at its widest point. And I'll go through the other dimensions as we go. But this blank was far too big, which is fine because I'm going to, we're going to actually drill this out in a minute, and then I'm going to turn around the hole that we drilled. So I don't want to go too hasty. There we go. So all I've done is just tied it at that one end so we can hold it. Now I'm keeping everything crossed now. I want to be able to hold that in my ODs, my O'Donnells. Remember what the O'Donnells look like. Okay. This is the middle size O'Donnells. I'm just going to take a quick measurement to make sure that I can actually fit what I've got there inside. And I think we're good to go. Now remember, on Tuesday we did say that why we would refer to an optimum size and why it's important to use that as much as you can. Now I would class that for your bowls for bigger things. Here I'm using the full span of the chuck. I'm not putting as much pressure on the chuck, so I don't mind too much if I go outside what we call the optimum size or perfect circle. So don't worry, I'm not going to put myself or Ben in danger by doing something silly and having things fly off the lathe at us.
While you're talking about jaws and things, we've got Rob with a question. When using the C jaws to grip an internal dovetail recess, what's the maximum diameter of bowl blank that can be turned safely?
Almost impossible question to answer that one, because there's all sorts of things to allow for, such as if that piece of timber is in balance, is it soft so the grip's not as good, what's your speed going to be, what's your ability is the most important thing as well. So I don't like answering questions like that. The only thing I would say is start slower than you assume. So I would go, if I'm using the C jaws, I certainly, by the time I get to sort of 14 inch blank, I'd want to go up a little bit in terms of jaw size. And there's plenty of options to go up. I mean, if you're gripping internally, then there's a set of grippers, for instance. Now they're considerable. They're a good size for big platters. You can go to something like the A jaws. All those sorts of things. You know, just think about all of those factors that we have to consider. Ability is a big one. Speed is a big one. How good a grip you have on the piece of timber. So softness of material, you know. So a little bit of care. I wish, like engineering, I wish there was a chart we could use that had a material, diameter, tool type equals speed. There isn't. Timber's different to that. Okay, we're just gonna get that light down here out. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna tidy up this side. Now look how secure that is, because it's being held all the way down in those O'Donnells, look. So you can see the amount of grip. It's being held right down the bottom, but it's also being held up here on a nice flat surface. So good lot of support. Very much like the cylinder jaws. The cylinder jaws we do very, very much the same as that. Guys, just put a comment. How are we doing for that focus? Has it disappeared? Have we found our way, or are we still a little bit blurry?
Ian says he's changed his specs, but he's still going in and out of focus.
Okay.
Is there a rule to when you use a 4-prong drive as to the ring centre there?
So you've probably seen me using a 4-prong drive very little. In fact, I'm searching for a 4-prong drive now and I can't find. Oh, there's a rusty old one right in the corner. I've seldom used them nowadays, only because they're just not as secure as something like a Pro drive, and the ring centers, i.e. friction drives, they're certainly a preference of mine on smaller pieces, purely because their contact area is small, so you've got less in the way. So my first preference would be Pro drive. If I could get away with using a what do you call it, ring centre than I would. I'm just checking length. You can see how accurately my measurements are being taken here. All I want to make sure is I'm not going to go through the piece and into my chuck, because that will ruin my drill bit and probably not do the chuck that much good either. I'm using a sawtooth bit. Really important, this is end grain, not side grain, so Forstner bits are for side grain, sawtooth bits for end grain. And we're going to drill down to the chuck. Alright, a minute.
Yep.
Speed, I want to be down on this one, I'm going to go down about 1,000 revs. And one hand on the chuck, always, just to make sure we're not going to go anywhere. May get a little bit of screeching, I apologise. Not nice, is it?
Do you mind if I just come round a little bit?
Go for it.
Just see what...
Giving it a little bit more welly now. What we've got to be careful of here, so you see me holding that chuck by my hat with one hand. That's just in case if there's any doubt at all that chuck's not secure. I want to make sure it doesn't just stay in the workpiece and then end up flying all over the place, which obviously would be an issue. I was a bit too aggressive with that, so I'm just going to calm down a little bit. That's me trying to go a bit too quick for you. Right. That's better. Right, a little bit more to do now. You can add a bit of wax to that if you want to stop that horrible noise from happening. We're not going to bother, we're just going to crack on. One more pass. That's us done. We are. So that's now got the 28mm hole. So that's sawtooth 28mm, and that's basically matching the size of the party poppers that I've got. I guess there's no party popper exact diameter, so you're going to have to measure your own. There's no standards in party popper manufacturing, I wouldn't have thought. Okay, so that's the one. We've done that. Now, purely the shape of the drill bit, you've got these saw teeth on the outside edge, and then in the middle you've got the one point. Now that leaves a neat little hole that we can pick up other drills on. So we need to create another hole right at the end for the tail of the party popper. So we're going to use a 10mm bit for that one. And that's just hopefully just going to make it. I have a plan B, so don't worry. If we don't have I'll tell you what, I'm going to go straight to plan B. Plan B is a long series drill bit. And in this case, I think, from my memory, is what we call a beam drill. Is. Beam drills are lip and spur, so they're a little bit longer. Well, a lot longer. And that's going to pick up on the hole left, that point hole that's been left by the sawtooth bit. and went through. Now don't forget here, don't have to worry because there's a hole up through the middle of the chuck. Don't think that I'm just suddenly going to hit metal. We're not. We've got a nice hole running up through the chuck. So I'll just take this one out just to show you. Plenty of room up through the chuck and the headstock there. So there we are. So we've got one big 28mm hole that side and the shorter 10mm hole the other side for the tail. All right, and that looks pretty perfect. I've got a little bit I can take off in terms of length here, so I've got plenty of room to maneuver. So now we can start the shaping. Get rid of our tailstock chuck. Okay, and so what we're going to do now, we've got two holes either side. We've got a hole either side now, so we can't use a drive centre, or not a conventional drive centre. So what we need to do instead is start using friction again. So there's many options that we've got for friction drive, but why not use, I reckon possibly, the light pull drive would go up into there. Look, that's perfect. The light pull drive is great because not only does it have different diameters, it has a chamfer on each of those diameters, so you don't have to be overly accurate. It will always center up. Okay, so it's a really nice drive to have in your arsenal. And so we can take the chuck away and we can start thinking about turning between centers. And of course, if we're turning around the holes have to be dead center. They have no choice. So hole first, then turn. We go there, single pointed tailstock center in this one, so we're always turning around that hole. Perfect. So we can start playing now, we can start creating a shape. If we look at our galleon cannon, okay, that's the traditional shape I'm looking for. That's where I'm going to go. I don't want to go through the middle, obviously. So I'm just going to make a measurement. And I think for safety, if I give us a couple of mil, so if I go 30, so if that is a 28mm drill bit, let's give it 6 mil, so 3mm wall thickness. All right, so that'd be 34mm, wouldn't it, Ben?
Yep.
All those years at school, see, weren't wasted.
Paid up. We had a question earlier about the skew just, I think it said skiffing across the surface while in the planing cut. Are you going to use the skew on this one?
Right, see, we can have a go. I wouldn't normally use the skew here. I might have an attempt to, but look at the grain. It's all over the show. And going left, going right, it's not always going to work with a skew. Sometimes it's better to come off either roughing gouge or bowl gouge to give us a better finish. It's not really the type of timber, but we'll have a go. We might as well. No better place to make mistakes than in front of lots of people. So if we make a cut, I'll just set that. I've actually set that to 35mm because I'm a bit of a chicken. So, and I'm just going to double check the drill bit, yeah, just to make sure we've got plenty of room to move. I'll go for a fairly wide parting tool. So this is the wide end of the cannon, or what will be where the projectile comes out, and this is going to be the tail end. Actually the fattest end here, but this is going to be a flare. Let me just do this and then we'll have a play with the skew and see what we can get going. But I'll answer your question before we do. The skipping will be because your bevel's not rubbing. There we are. So that's cut to 35. So let's tidy up the barrel end. And all that is there is just a little curve to the front, just to show that we made a bit of an effort. I'll sand the inside as well, and we'll have an opportunity to get to that in a moment. There we are. And now we'll do that little flare. So just with the bowl gouge. Looking quite big at the moment. We might take that down. We'll see how it looks in a mo. So I'm just going to rough down with the bowl gouge just till we got a flat surface, and then we'll skew. Okay, so a lot of shaping to do there, but let's just get the skew chisel going. So we're going to plot the tool rubbing, you can hear the rub of the bevel there, around about 45 degrees cutting edge to the top line of your work, and then you're just going to very slightly raise the handle until you see dust on that bottom half there, and then that's your cue to move forward. If you're getting a lot of juddering and a lot of skipping, then there's two things that will be happening. Firstly, bevel's probably not rubbing very well. Secondly, the grain can be coming up at you. Try coming from the other direction. Instead of going left to right, go right to left, or vice versa. And most of the time you'll find a direction that works, but not always. Actually not going too bad. Alright, it's cleaned up quite nicely. Okay, so let's round over the back side. We'll put a little button on the end again, referring back to this one. We'll put this bit of detail here. I'm going to take some of the length away as well, so we're going to have to keep tightening this up. So let's go for a whole selection of tools. So let's go with a spindle gouge, and now we're going to roll over the curve. So we're taking a little bit of length away. Just need a slightly smaller tool to do the other side of that bead there. And then we can start the main shape, so a little bit more pressure. So what I'm doing here is a skew cut with the bowl gouge, so using the bottom end of the gouge, just like a skew, so presenting it about 45. And you get a really nice quick cut. There we are. Now we can tidy up. So I'm going to use the bevel rubbing technique now. So push cut as opposed to a pull cut. we are. Now we may as well, because we can, put some decoration in. So let's put a couple of these. There. And there.
So I've got a question from Teresa here. Why choose a bowl gouge over a spindle gouge?
So most of my work is done with a bowl gouge. I'll be honest with you. I've been drawn into using a spindle gouge more often nowadays because of teaching. People need to know how to use a spindle if they want to. The difference between the two is quite extreme. So here I've got this one being the spindle gouge, this one being the bowl gouge. The bowl gouge has a very deep flute, but narrow. And because it's narrow, the side walls of the steel wrap up around the flute. So that gives it structural strength. What it also means is you don't get a very acute angle back here. With the spindle gouge, you can get almost a skew-like angle. So that's great for rolling in to things of detail, like this little V-cut down in the bead. That's perfect. Because the flute being fairly shallow, or what they call the sweep, being fairly shallow but wide, it allows you to be, stops a lot of that material coming up the sides, but it allows you to get more of an acute angle. So those are the difference. The issues with a spindle gouge in terms of bowl turning, because it's shallow and wide, you don't get a lot of strength there. So you get a lot of chatter if you're doing a lot of work a long way from the tool rest. But that's why you would use a bowl gouge for more like bowls and spindle gouge for these spindle work. But I do an awful lot of curved shapes with the bowl gouge because it's the same action as making a bowl, and you know, if you're used to using a bowl gouge, why not, sort of thing. It loves side grind, which this is. There we are. There's a fairly classic cannon barrel shape. We're going to sand that one up quickly. And then I think we'll just have time to attempt one of the wheels, so then you can go away and make your own. So I'm going to put the dust extraction on. Any questions before we do, Ben?
There's one here, I think I know the answer to this one, but he's asking if you can use cellulose thinners to mix with an oil, but I'm thinking that's a sanding sealer, that you've done the 50-50 mix.
Yeah, the 50-50 mix of cellulose sanding sealer and cellulose thinners, just to dilute it down a little bit. The reason that I do that is because it cuts through oily or waxy timbers. It also soaks in a long way, and it can dry nice and quickly. And you do well to leave brush marks. As long as you wipe them off quickly before it dries and then sand it back, you do well to leave any brush marks on that. That's my preference. As the manufacturer, they say use it straight out of the tin. I get that, that's fine, but my preference is to dilute it down up to 50% with thinners.
And then a quick one on like longer pieces. Do we have a longer tool rest of which you could use for turning stair spindles or table legs? Or would you just move the tool rest along as you go? Yeah, so at the moment, the longest one we are doing is the robust 14. Okay, so the 14-inch one. Now I do know Robust do a double stem one, but at the moment we haven't brought that in. We don't have another one at this time. Again, it's the same issue. You know, you've got lots of different lathes, lots of different stem sizes. Do we supply extra banjos, all that sort of thing? And at the moment we haven't decided to do that. My setup, which I'm desperately trying to find, is made by a friendly engineer, where I've got a tool rest post here. The other side is a flat plate which I then clamp, and that's worked really, really well for me. I can't find it at the moment. I'll get it for the next session, but that works. But no, I get it. Yeah, absolutely. If you're doing a load of stair spindles, you certainly don't want to be moving the tool rest all the time, because it'll take you forever. Right, sanding away. 100 grit to start with. 100, 150, 240, 400. You know how we work.
And I'll skip through this nice and quickly. We're going to put an oil finish on this as well. So now we're going to 150. We're going to finish up with a 400 on this. Okay, we'll have a quick look, see how we are. It's a nice bit of wood. Nice bit of timber, that one's a bit of elm. Like I say, we'll pop a little bit of oil on that. We'll pop some finishing oil on. I'm not going to dirty up another brush just for this bit, so we're going to use a bit of tissue. Finishing oil. This is the Liberon one. We've also got chestnut, of course, one of my favourites. Liberon. That colour come out of here. Oh, lovely. Beautiful colour. Worth it when you get colour like that coming out. When you get deep into those little V cuts up. I'm not going to do too much more to that at this stage. There's a lot more bits to do. I want to get on to do one of the feet at least before we sign off. Lathe speed down, turn the lathe on, just a little bit of burnishing.
So I've got a question from David here. Can you cut the small flat end off the tail end of the Morse taper to give you more movement with the wheel? So I think maybe it's talking about cutting off the end of a centre to give you more.
Oh,
you would lose the grip, wouldn't you, of the more?
You would. Yeah. What? I see where you're coming from. You're on about, if it's an Axminster one, you're on about the other side here. You'd only gain about 6 mil. I wouldn't start tampering with the bedding surface because that you would lose grip there. Yeah, you're only going to gain 6 mil though. Is there a specific need for that? I mean, David, have you got something that's not working, that's not happening? Because I've never known a problem which wouldn't be solved just literally by moving the tailstock a little bit. I might be missing something. This is lovely. It's going to be an amazing cannon. Not as good as Charlie's, but it'd be amazing. Right, let's take that one off and do a wheel. There we are. So we've got our hole to take the tail, and then I'm gonna clean this up later on, and I'll show you how to do that. But we've got to make a plunging rod as well. So let's move on. Let's do one of the wheels so you can see how we're doing that. Basically, we're going to make a miniature push plate. If you see me do any of the smokers, that's how I hold the bases for the smokers. Nice and quick. So we'll just make a quick one of those. All that's going to involve, I've got a scrap bit of timber already here. Just going to hold that between centres and turn away the corners just to get round again. And then we're going to add a little bit of router matting, really important, router matting. Get yourself a tub of router matting. I'm using it all the time, either in little scraps, just putting it on the bed of the bench to protect work that I'm working through, you know, all that sort of stuff. It's just so useful. I've got it down here on the big push plates. And we're going to use it on this one. So just to start, we'll just skim the corners away. I'm going to hold that then in those little ODs, little O'Donnells. So we're just checking corners. It's only a small bit of timber, but you always go safety first. 2000 revs, small bowl gouge. Tidy up that face. And then we're going to put the chuck on. So those ODs again. Good thing with these O'Donnells that they just throw everything further away. You've got fear of hitting fingers or anything like that. I would say that's pretty good in there. So now, I want this smaller than the wheels. So the wheel diameter is going to be, and we're copying literally this one. Okay, so I've got the wheel diameter here is 40 mil. So that needs to be smaller. Because we're going to use it as a push plate, we don't need it to get in the way. If you want to be really clever, you can cut them to 40 mil, and that could be your guide, couldn't it, for diameter? Why don't we do that? Good idea, Colwin. 40 mil. I reckon once we get that down to round, I think that's what we're going to go with. Let's use the skew. Nice and high with the tool rest, above centre when we're skew cutting. Flat face we need. That's it. That looks good to me. So a little bit of router matting, and just for speed, normally I'd use a contact adhesive on here, but just for a bit of speed, let's go with a bit of the old super glue and zapper. Get it done instantly then. Let's cut a rough bit of matting off.
Got a question from Melissa. She's she can use the skew in towards the direction of the headstock, but is having a little bit of trouble going the other way. Is there any reason or any advice you can give for that?
That's probably heavily right-handed, I'm guessing, then, Melissa. It is one of those things, unfortunately. You got to, and there's nothing stopping you if you want to carry on using the tool right and just swap over, you know, just come in from the other side, as it were. But learn as a right-hander. Let me just try and get myself straight here. As a right-hander, we're cutting from right to left. You think about where your body's standing. So the handle coming from tailstock to headstock is neatly on your side here, so you can run quite easily. When you come the other way, everything starts clashing and getting in the way. Best thing you can do is your right foot point it up the length of the lathe, that automatically means your torso then turns around, and that means you can sweep the handle back around as well, and that gives you a lot more room. Handle back over and away you go. If you try and fix yourself dead in front of the machine, you're going to be in your own way all the time. So foot over, turn your body around, and away you go. It's the best way, really. We should get another chance to do some skew work. Well, I know we will, because a lot of the Christmas stuff that I'm going to be doing soon involves skews, so we can play with that. But yeah, body position is the biggie there. Right, so let's just cut some of that waste away. What's the time there, Ben?
So we are on about 7 minutes to 5.
We got time to do 1 or 2 of these. Pre-drilled, these are. There we are. I'll just use a bit of super glue just to attach that, and I've added some accelerator to make sure that super glue is dry. So my little chunks of timber that are already drilled, okay, I don't bother taking the corners off. We're going to go straight to single pointed tailstock centre and lock everything up nice and tight.
And do you use a diamond card or a strop when you're on your skew chisel at all?
Either of those two. So this is the double-sided. So this one is 600 and 300. This one here is your DMT card. This one's the fine. So 600 mesh, that one. And I just give it a glance over every now and again. Keep it sharp rather than wait for them to go blunt. You will find that probably 1 in 5 sharpens will need a mechanical sharpening system, and that'll probably be either CBN, Tormek, a very fine carburetor, aluminium oxide, but yeah, something fairly fine. Let's quickly whip that one down to a wheel. Nice and quick. Got to be quick here because you've got the corners on. And we come in from the side, both sides. Basically, my blank was slightly smaller than 40 mil. So we're going to turn everything down to make sure it's round, and then that little push plate that we've made is the correct size then. Now, because you've got it held here, of course, you can do something with that outer edge. You can maybe put some marks in there. You can get your passing tool to put some treads in. You could do that to all of them if you wanted to. You could keep it plain. Entirely up to you. We'll do a very quick sand on that one. You have your first wheel. Now we're going to do some things to these later on. Once we've got all 4 done, I'm going to put my sanding disc just lightly sand that with a finish grade, and then I'm going to wire brush it with a brass brush just to bring out the grain, just so it looks a little bit weathered as the original one did. So there we are. You don't need to see me do another 3 of those. You can see how they're done. Make yourself a little push plate. Get yourself some router matting. Get all 4 of those done. Get the barrel made, because then on Tuesday we're going to make the actual carriage itself, I'll show you how to do a little bit of weathering to them. And basically all I'm going to use to do the weathering is just a little brass brush. You can get suede brushes, this sort of thing. Okay, little brass brush to do that. If the timbers are a little bit too stubborn for that, then go up maybe to something like a harder material. Let me grab a couple. Either something like those two, and these are going to be really, really tough. Okay, and that'll give you a nice little weathered look to your timber, to your oak, to chestnut, whatever you want to use, you know. Ash. So there we are. That, I think that would be it. So Ben, would you like to pan that camera back? Mm-hmm. There's a few things for you to be getting on with, guys, over the weekend. You got 4 feet to make. You got to saw your timber. Okay, so all ready for us Tuesday to finish off our little cannon. If you're feeling adventurous, then you crack on and do one yourself. Send in pictures, of course, to Axminster, and we'll put them up there. But that's where we're going to be. Don't forget, get your party poppers. You need to measure your party poppers before you start drilling. Mine were 28 mil. Okay, but you need to just double check that. So that's Tuesday next week. Now there was a question, some of you might have heard the question on Tuesday, could we do something with crotch timbers? I was very fortunately able to nab this bit of cherry from one of the groundsmen at Axminster Tools. So it's a lovely bit of cherry. It's actually the root ball. So we're going to do something with that on Thursday. Okay, it's a bit ambitious. If you've got any ideas, send them in, whether you'd like to see a natural edge or you'd like to see a vase or anything like that. I'm going to give it a jet wash over the weekend, but that's going to be Thursdays. So we've got a cannon to make next week on Tuesday and a root ball on Thursday. So until then, guys, thanks for watching. I've been Colwin Way. Join me on Tuesday, same time, same place. Happy turning and have a lovely weekend. Bye bye.